Welcome back to the Association here on NBA TV and the NBA app. Alongside Greg Kelser, I'm Lauren Rosen as we take a closer look now at the Houston Rockets, who hung around all night despite falling in Game 1 in LA. No Kevin Durant meant Josh Okogie would slide into the starting lineup. A big night from Tari Eason off the bench. But Greg, what else are they going to need here moving forward? Of course, by the way, Ime Udoka saying he doesn't anticipate the Durant absence being more than a one-game thing, or at least that's what he said pregame. We will hear from him more in just a moment. But what do you expect out of the rest of this group as they move forward and try to make it a competitive series?
Their defense has to be better. They did some good things tonight. Just 13 turnovers, 12 turnovers on the night, on the road. Not bad. That's a very acceptable total. But defensively, I thought they just had far too many lapses. Only Marcus Smart, who took more than 2 shots in the game, shot under 50%. Everybody else shot 50 or well above. Ayton was 8 of 10. Kennard was 5 for 5 from three-point land, 9 for 13 for the game. So you can't allow them to shoot 61% and expect to win that basketball game. And they were good enough and played hard enough to kind of stick around, but they were always swimming upstream, and that was very difficult over the course of the 48-minute game.
Well, we know Ime Udoka always keeps it real. We're sure he's doing the same at the podium right now. Let's hear what he wants to adjust ahead of Game 2. Greg, you hear Ime Udoka saying there that the Rockets were not at their best tonight, but managed to keep the margins pretty thin. So as we take a closer look at their night in some highlights, what do you hope to see out of Houston in Game 2 with or without Durant?
Well, I think that they're going to definitely – my focus for this team will be on the defensive end because, as I mentioned earlier, when you allow 61% shooting – now, you say, well, the defense was okay. They forced 20 turnovers. Yeah, but you still allowed them to shoot 61%, and that's what got them over the top. So I would start on that end first. Offensively, I thought they weren't bad. They were not bad. Yes, they did miss shots, no question about that. But
Marcus, a lot of the talk leading up to tonight was just with Luka and Austin out, how it's going to take everybody, and you see all 5 starters in double digits, and the bench making contributions as well. How was tonight a example of that rhetoric that you guys have been talking about?
We just showed it. You just said it. Every starter's in double digit. Our bench doing what they do, but I think it's it was never just one person at a time, right? We tried to play through the hot guy at the time and then, just make the right plays. And I think, we did a great job at that. Obviously, we can be better. I think we had, 21 turnovers? I had 5 of myself. But, for me to be able to play those positions with the guys out there, to have Luke take over, with some of the ball handling, have LeBron, I think that shows right there the collectiveness that we are together.
Okay, what pleased you the most about the way your team played? Because in every game there's always ups and downs. But what pleased you the most about getting through those ups and downs?
Just our ability to stay poised. You playing against a really good team out there who does a really good job of mucking up the game, and seeing who's the toughest team, right? And, it got a little chippy out there, a couple technicals called. And I think, for me and for this team to be able to stay as poised as we did, I think that was the part for me that really stood out and was like, okay, I think we're ready and it's going to be a good one. And as long as we can continue to do that, I think we'll be in good shape. Thank you.
Hello. Over here. Hi. I was just talking to one of the guys who hadn't been in the playoffs before, and he said he was really nervous going on the court. Coach keeps talking about you as, veteran presence, guys showing guys what to do. How much of that is individual, you pulling guys aside, and how much of it is like collective just in the room?
A lot of it is pulling them guys to the side. Ironically, a lot of the guys are actually pulling me to the side, right? Asking me questions. And, they want to learn. And that's something about this young group that the guys that are on their bench that, haven't been in the playoffs. I think that right there shows, the work that we put in as a team, the trust that they have in me as a vet to be able to lead them in that way, right? So it's definitely been a little bit of both, but definitely the guys have been on their own doing it, pulling me aside. So I commend them for that.
What kinds of questions? So is it like specific X and O stuff, or is it more just like, how do I do this kind of thing?
It's a little bit of everything, but mostly on the defensive end. The reads that I see, the plays that I make, and basically how do I guard guys? I'm not considered a great defender, how can I, they're not. Yeah, that's what they're saying to me. They're not considered a great defender, so they're trying to get little tips to figure out how to play defense, right? So I'm just trying to do my best to not only show by example, but also, teach them and verbally, right?
Hey, Marcus, not trying to get too far ahead of anything. It's only one game, but I remember back in 2018, you was with a shorthanded team as far as stars go. Gordon wasn't there the whole season. Kyrie was there, but he didn't play in the playoffs with y'all. That was a conference finals run for that team. Like, what can you take from that experience to what this team is going through, at least to start this postseason?
Resiliency. That 18 team, we were resilient. We were, no matter who we had on the floor, we're going to make sure we go out there and give it everything we had. And we're in the same scenario here. Our two best players get hurt, right? And we got to show how resilient we are, especially against a team that's going to come out and make you prove it. So I think that right there is the equivalent of that 18 season that I had and the ability to be able to bounce back under this adversity that we're going through. And that's what makes this team dangerous.
Marcus, earlier in the season, you talked about what it was like to be on this side with LeBron after all your battles through the years. What's it like to be on this side with playoff LeBron, and what's sort of the week been like, just going through preparation with him in practice and then seeing it tonight, the way he controlled the game?
I mean, it's been great. I mean, being able to see, why, he's considered, one of the greatest to do it, the way that he prepares for the playoffs, it's a whole different mentality for him, right, than the regular season. And we see it, you guys see it, but as a teammate, to be able to be there watching him get prepared, watching the things he's doing to get himself ready, I'm glad I'm on his side this time.
Hey, Marcus, you had a bunch of straight line drives to go along with the 8 assists. You led the team in free throw attempts. How much do you feel like it's your responsibility to be someone that goes at their on-ball pressure with force, counters it with force?
It's important for me, especially without, the two guys, Luka and Austin. We're short on, ball handlers and guys who can create not just for themselves but for others, right? So, the team, they lean on me a lot for that, and just to be able to do it. So constantly my teammates, coaching staff is telling me be aggressive, either that's for you or for your teammates, but continue to be aggressive. And that's something I have to do. I haven't always been asked to play that role. And I think that's what makes me unique. I'm a Swiss Army knife, so kind of do a little bit of everything. So hopefully we can keep it up, and hopefully I can continue to stay in that mentality and that mode.
And Marcus, back to LeBron, the fact that he didn't play as if he had to do everything to compensate without Luka and Austin, what ways do you think that set the tone to ensure that team balance?
Well, first off, it's just his IQ, right? He picks and chooses when to exert energy, and he knows when to exert the energy, right? But I think it just speaks volume of who he is and who he's always been, a leader. He instills trust in his guys, right? The word we're using now is elevate, right? He elevates us, to see a guy, of his status being able to, turn down shots to get other guys going. And then, like I said, picking and choosing when it's his time, it just, it helps us a lot, and it just shows his greatness.
Thanks, Marcus.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. And by the way, that 18 season was against Brian.
Greg, we heard it from Marcus Smart. You shared with us minutes ago. LeBron James continues to elevate his game, continues to elevate the play of others. At age 41 tonight, 13 assists were needed, and he was able to produce those. Let's just take another moment to discuss how unique what he is doing out there has been now for years. And again, tonight, what'd you see from the King?
Well, once again, you start with the fact that he's playing at such a high level, an all-star level, maybe an all-NBA level at the age of 41. I mean, there have been players that have played into their 40s in the NBA and its history, but none to this level, none like this. Super intelligent, seems to always know what his teammates need at a certain time of a game, where there's, they need an encouraging word or they need the ball. You'll get both from him. And LeBron is chasing his own history. He's going to go down as one of the top 10 best players ever. Some might have him the best ever. I would probably argue that a little bit. I think he's phenomenal. But he would love more than anything to get that 5th ring. And I think that's what drives him. Getting that 5th ring puts him up there with Irvin Magic Johnson, pulls him to within 1 of Michael Jordan, puts him right there with Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, all who got 5 rings. And he wants that badly. And that's what he's hoping for. And there are a lot of people who think that if they're at full strength, they'll have a shot at it.
We'll have to see if the Lakers are able to get a little closer, perhaps, to full strength. They have a couple days off, don't play game 2 again until Tuesday. And this series, if you look at it on the calendar, could be a really long one, maybe some time for some reinforcements. We shall see. Now, when we come back, we will hear from some of the Rockets at the podium, plus look at some more highlights. So don't go anywhere here on NBA TV and the NBA app. We will be right back with more of the association.
The